a referee with a career of questionable stoppages. You know, the stoppages that you could look at and you'd be like, you know what? There was room for answers. We probably should have seen more. You know, a ref with anger issues, quick-tempered, kind of always getting into it with fighters. Doesn't know how to control himself, scaring fighters after they secure a victory. You know, and this is not the first time I've seen bad stand-ups from Marc Goddard because he was quote-unquote bored or he just didn't like the fighter and he wanted them to stand up because he didn't like how dominant the fight was. Marc Goddard is a referee that I feel like needs to be gone and he needs to be investigated, and I don't think he understands how to ref. Now, I try to keep it cool with Marc Goddard. I don't really have a problem with Marc Goddard as a human being. Sure, does he have anger issues? Cool. I don't care. You know, not everyone's a calm person, you know. I'm just not fond about how he goes about fights, and I feel like his performance at UFC 319 was pitiful. It was embarrassing. It was disrespectful, guys. Now, if you guys missed it, I don't think anyone missed it. Khamzat put the beats on DDP like Dr. Dre, hands on him, lots of bass. He played with him. He fiddled with him. You know, he had his way with him. Now, in this fight, I like to say Khamzat beat Dricus Du Plessis, but it leaves a weird taste in my mouth, you know. I feel like I can't just say Khamzat beat Dricus Du Plessis because I'm a firm believer that Dricus Du Plessis was in there with Marc Goddard, and they still both failed to beat Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat went in there and he 2v1, guys. You can say what you want, but it wasn't a 1v1. And I'm not going to ride the narrative that, yeah, Dad, he only beat Dricus, dude. He didn't only dominate Dricus, he overcame the odds. Now, when a fighter's going in there and the referee's an obstacle, that's how you know there's going to be a problem. Now, I'm not fond of Goddard as a referee, and it's not the first time he's done something bad. I remember even in the Woodley Kamaru fight, when Kamaru was also 50-44ing a former champion, he was trying to stand up the fight or like separate them when Uzun was dominating. A referee can't do this, guys. A referee can't go in there, and because I don't know if you could bet as a ref, but a referee can't be like, nah, well, this fight's too one-sided. Let me stand it up and make it more competitive. Especially when the guy is being dominant and he's actually throwing. Now, you can stand up fights if one or two things are happening. The first thing that's happening, if someone has a controlling position, just to have a controlling position, that's not enough to keep them on the ground. You can stand that up. If like, I love Aljamain Sterling, but sometimes there's fighters who like get backpacks or something and they're just holding you there and just not taking damage, and then they do nothing else. They barely even touch you. They don't do anything. Now, one thing that pisses me off about Khamzat, not Khamzat, the way people are perceiving the Khamzat fight is they're saying, dude, Khamzat didn't do anything. He just took him down and held him there, did nothing. He didn't throw any strikes, blah, blah. And they'll be like, oh, well, even the strikes he threw, they weren't trying to do something. They keep saying he never went for a finish. I hate that. Like, even Demetrius Johnson saying it, Guru's idiotic hating ass is saying it. You know, I see people saying he never once went for a finish. I see the stat sheet saying he's never attempted a choke. He's attempted more chokes than I can count in that fight. He was going for rear naked chokes. I don't know why people are trying to say he never went for finishes. But what was Dricus doing? He was fighting to survive. So he was fighting not to get choked. So when he was going for these rear naked chokes and being active and actually throwing strikes, you would be like, okay, there's no reason to stand this fight up. Now, if you were going to stand this fight up from this guy transitioning from like full mount, he was in crucifix to side control to full mount at a time. He was transitioning a lot, and I don't like when people try to act like he wasn't transitioning through guards and being active with the strikes and going for submission attempts. He was doing everything. These don't warrant a stand up. Now, for some reason, Marc Goddard saw this. He was like, wait, he's dominating too much. Let me stand him up. How dumb does Marc Goddard got to be? Like, how angry does this guy got to be? How salty? Did you put money on Dricus? And then you're like, nah, well, we got to give him more of a chance. And what's a little bit more frustrating about this is I remember DDP would do stuff where he would cheat. He would put his toes in the fence trying to climb and just try to get out and buck out. And Goddard was not worried about it in the slightest. He just looked at it. He's like, all right, that's cool. Yeah, put your feet in there, dude. You know, kick back, dude. Try to get out. I'm rooting for you, man. I'm rooting for you. You can't convince me that he wasn't rooting for him. There was even the sequence where he did have his feet in the fence. I kid you not. 20 seconds later, the fight was stood up. Like, he had him in side control. I know DDP was in his fence, and DDP tries to like scramble, tries to get to his back, and then Khamzat puts him in a position where he has him with his back almost against the fence. And then Goddard's like, nah, fuck that, stands it up. You can't do that. Like, and it's weird because DDP tried to get up, failed again. Khamzat got him back down. And then once he saw that he failed that transition, Goddard immediately stood him up. You can't do that. The stand-ups were despicable in this fight. And it was literally Goddard having no reason to do it except for the fact he wanted the fight to be more competitive for Dricus Du Plessis. Now, Robert Whitaker said it perfectly. You can't do that. I actually want to put the clip in of Whitaker's take on this fight.
When the ref, this is the second thing I want to talk about, terrible stand-up. Okay? Like, he just wanted to give Dricus a chance to throw bombs. Man, you can't do... He's controlled, at this point, 22 minutes of ground time in the match, and you stand him up when he's at his most tired to give a... You can't do that, man. But not once. Not twice. Just once. Dude, twice.
Yeah.
And he even broke him up when he was on the wall. Chimaev's best position. That was terrible in my opinion. Like,
because Whitaker did a good job, I feel like, explaining how, like, just because someone's getting dominant, you can't stand them up. Unless Goddard was in the camp with Mornay Visor, you know, and they were like practicing, all right, so if my guy gets controlled, you got to jump in and stand us up. Sheba, how dumb do you got to be? Especially the coach. What pissed me off about him is how he got on that fucking interview was like, the ref made more mistakes. He should have standed us up more. Bro, the only mistake the ref made was standing you up. Don't look at Marc Goddard as someone like, dude, since you stood him up this time, you should stand him up every time. Goddard's just nothing but an idiot. Respect to Goddard, but he's an idiot. He literally, I need the UFC to look into the fact he did this. I know they're not allowed to bet legally. Check his betting slip, check his wife's betting slip, check his kids. I don't know if he has family, and this, I'm not trying to disrespect him. I'm just saying, I want to see if someone bet in his, like, someone in his household put a bet up. Because I don't know why he was trying so hard to make sure that Dricus had a chance in a fight that he was simply outmatched in. Like, in what guts, you know, the worst stand-up that's inexcusable, that I've never seen anyone say this is a bad stand-up, was in the 5th round where Khamzat was dominating, bro. Like, first of all, he already dominated for 20 minutes already. When you're dominating for that long, it showed me in the 5th that Marc Goddard literally only standing these guys up for the simple fact that he wants Dricus to have a chance to win, or he wants Dricus to have a comeback knockout. He was chasing a beautiful moment. Because Khamzat got into full guard, and he was active. Now, I know people who get into full guard, they literally just sit there, they camp there, they throw no strikes. Khamzat in the 5th round, already tired as days because, Goddard has stood him up a bunch of times at this point. He was tired as hell. He was laying down face first onto the stomach of GDP, but he was throwing. He was boom, 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 boom. He was going head, body, body. He was actively throwing. He was not sitting in guard. And Goddard was trying to act like he was camping. You got to throw something, Khamzat. What are you talking about? You got to move. He's throwing. You can't say you got to throw and he's throwing, and then you're like, no, you stand him up. And when he stood him up there, that's actually when DDP had a chance to, like, throw some barrages, and he forced something. And I remember even when he stood up Khamzat literally gives him a look like, bro, why are you standing me up? And you could tell that's when Khamzat was, like, very frustrated, because Khamzat knew he was getting stand up for bullshit reasons, but he picked a specific moment where he stood Khamzat up already. Khamzat was already tired, then Khamzat secures another takedown and some control time, and then he's frustrated that he did all that work again just to be stood up at the very end. It's actually disgusting how referees can get away with this stuff like this, and no one says nothing about this. No one has made a video about this. I was very surprised. I was like, I'm waiting on somebody to say something about this. Surely we're not going to just let Goddard get off the hook for attempting to cheat for a fighter. You can't let that happen. And with Goddard, what's frustrating about this, if this was Goddard's first mistake, I kid you not, I wouldn't care. That you wouldn't see this video from me. It's the fact that I consistently see Goddard in questionable stoppage, like him not being able to control himself, scaring fighters, him standing up other fights that didn't make sense because it wasn't to his liking, or the fighter he wanted to win was getting dominated. You can't do this. And Goddard has not came out with a message too. I haven't heard shit from Goddard saying, listen, my bad. I want to hear his explanation, because his explanation can't be like Khamzat's not being active. Khamzat was being active. You can't say Khamzat wasn't being active in strikes. You could say, well, the strikes didn't do too much. There's a point where I feel like you should punish the fighter for taking unanswered strikes. Unanswered strikes can lead to TKOs. I hope people understand this. There's certain times when you're just in a controlling position. I've seen it with Valentina Shevchenko when she gets people on crucifixes, or just in general. It's not that the fighter's even landing crazy strikes and you're knocking someone out. It could be a TKO if it's unanswered strikes. it would have been a better choice for Marc Goddard to stop the fight completely if you're frustrated at the fact that Dricus is in a controlling position, doing nothing but turning his head, trying to not take damage. That warrants a TKO finish more than it warrants an unjustified stand-up just because you want Dricus to win. Now, I'll say this. If he didn't have a clear bias for Dricus, that fight would have just been a TKO, because there were certain positions that Dricus was in that he had no answer, was not moving, was not trying to actively get up, and was taking some unanswered strikes. And unanswered strikes lead to TKOs. You can even look it up in the rule book. Doesn't have to be a knockout. A TKO can just be unanswered strikes that are repetitive. And I feel as if, based on that alone, there were so many sequences I could point to repetitive unanswered strikes when Khamzat controlled him in the crucifix, even in side control, even in full mount. And he was constantly doing something, and I hate the narrative that he wasn't trying to chase finishes when he was doing everything to get a finish. When he did create space, let's get this straight, in the crucifix position, because I see people trying to milk and like hate on the crucifix position that Khamzat got into it. Let me say something here. When DDP wasn't keeping his head this way and turning away and trying to force Khamzat to hit him illegal shots, what Khamzat would do when he turned the head the other way, he would frame off and throw some mean elbows, and those were the most significant strikes landed. But when DDP realized, yo, I'm getting my face fucking smashed in when I'm not trying to just hide and play it safe, so let me hide and play it safe and hope that Goddard stands us up, because hey, Goddard's on my side. You can't do this. I've never seen any pro fighter who's came out and said the opposite. Patty said the same thing. Whitaker said the same. Everyone had the same. Joe Rogan, people trying to say, Joe Rogan, we hate you so much. You're such a casual. Because Joe Rogan said, I don't agree with that stand-up. You guys are trying to hate on Joe for saying facts. You can't look at a fight like this and try to justify the stand-ups because you wanted more from DDP. And you can't call this fight boring because you think Khamzat was the person to blame. At the end of the day, DDP went in there and fought to survive, while Khamzat went in there and fought to kill. He fought to land. He fought to damage. You could say he didn't go for damage. He didn't go for finishing shots. But I could show you screenshots of him attempting chokes, attempting darces, attempting all this shit, while you're going to be there, okay, well, he might have actually tried going for the finish, but still, he didn't get it, so we should say he's boring. No, you should look at DDP 1 and say, DDP, get better and learn how to get out positions. And then 2, blame his stupid coach for having a stupid game plan. And then 3, look at Goddard, someone who tried to cheat and still failed. Goddard needs to be out, you know? There's no reason I should see Marc Goddard reffing a big fight, because Marc Goddard knows how to screw it up really good in these big fights, guys. It's a common occurrence I'm starting to see where Goddard in big fights will always be questionable stoppages, him raging at someone, him, standing stupid stuff up, or him just doing stupid shit on purpose to like get a rise out of people. You can't let your personal emotions get in the way of your occupation. Your occupation is to be a referee and follow the guidelines and make stuff appropriate. Your job is not to make a fight more competitive or give a fighter a chance. If a fighter is unmatched in a fight, you can't go in there with the mindset, well, listen, he's unmatched, so I gotta help him up. I gotta do whatever I can do to help this guy win. This guy spent a whole training camp, but that's not enough. He needs my help too, so I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna help him. You can't do that. Matter of fact, who are you to try to even attempt to do something like that? Who do you think you are doing that? It makes no sense to me. And I still don't know why I still see people trying to attempt to defend him. I did put a post on Twitter. It went semi-viral. It's nearly 1 million views of people. And most people are in agreement with me that like this guy needs to get fired. I don't care to see Marc Goddard ever again. And I'm not even a hater, but there's other referees who could just do better in situations like this, bro. He consistently in the biggest stages makes himself look goofy in his reffing, and he needs to cut it out. I have nothing against the guy. I hope the best for his well-being. But as far as a referee in the UFC, I think your time's up. I think referees lose it. I think referees lose it, I feel like just like fighters when they age a little bit, maybe they get worse at their job. This is what I think about God. He's not even old, but it's just that like the more I see him, the more mistakes he makes. He's the only ref I see consistently make mistakes at the highest level of important fights, and we just try to turn our shoulder to it and be like, well, it happens. It's Goddard. I hear people saying, oh, well, it's Goddard. What? Are you trying to say it's Goddard so we should just turn our shoulder and forget about it? No, I don't care if it's just because it's Goddard and we're used to him having anger issues and we're used to him just stopping fights questionably and we're used to him standing up fights bad. Why do we have to be used to it? You don't have to tell me I have to be used to it because I have no reason. You can't convince me or say, Kenny, just get used to it, because I don't have to. I don't need to. Matter of fact, I think the UFC needs to get this guy out because this guy's coming in here, watching fighters who deep down has never tussled with the stars or hustle with the stars or tussle with the law. Like DDP didn't shake no one's hand after they punched him in the jaw. Like that's the truth of the matter. In this fight, DDP got fraud checked, unfortunately, and Khamzat got cardio checked and his cardio checked out. That was a bar. He got cardio checked and his cardio checked out. Mama, that was a bar, you know. My point is, you can't get mad that Khamzat went in there with cardio. I'm pretty sure deep down, Goddard was one of those people who said after the first round, it's probably going to be different. And once he saw it wasn't happening, he tried to make it different after the first round. He said, listen, I might have been wrong about that, but if I make them stand up, maybe I can make an opportunity arise and I can have a chance happen. Marc Goddard, bro, you're not fooling anyone. You're not convincing anyone. I need you out of the UFC. Your refereeing performances continue to get worse. And I've had enough of it. So at the end of the day, you need to get fired or you need to be investigated for maybe potentially betting on this fight and trying to have a Dricus Du Plessis win because you had a disgusting performance at UFC 319 and I'm not letting you go at this. That's why I made this video. I don't care if I'm the only one who made this video. I don't care if no one sees this video. I don't care if my point is, I hope whoever sees this video understands that Goddard went in with an agenda and his agenda still failed. Khamzat went in there and won a 2v1 at UFC 319. But let me know what you guys think down below. That's it for me and God bless. 2, 3, 4.